Can you hear me?
Hi, can you hear me?
Yeah, I think everyone starts with "Can you hear me?" Thanks so much for this. It's a bit of a lucky one because I was talking to Colleen today,
Oh yeah, yeah.
and she was saying, "Oh, you keep asking Daisy, she'll come in the end." So it's good I finally managed to get you. So thanks
Oh,
for joining us, and I guess we would discuss more. But what I'm going to do is I'm just going to quickly share my screen.
okay, cool.
Um, Let me bring it up. Okay. Okay. Hopefully you can see that. So just a quick explanation. So what I guess what my goal was many years ago, I studied illustration and thought about fashion illustration as a platform that really hasn't had anyone pushing it hard enough.
Yeah.
Seeing all the universities kind of trying to create LCF, pushing it a little bit, but something online that gives it a bit more rigor to it and a bit more of a conversation. And I know you've been doing it for many years. I remember your Topshop stuff with the
Oh
shoe.
yeah. Yeah, the shoe boxes. I started off doing the shoe boxes, yeah, and then I did homeware.
I think I was finishing my at Kingston when I doing
Oh,
illustration at that point, and I think you had just brought them shoes out. And I think for us, it was great to see someone who was being quite courageous with technique and style and approach to drawing. And you know, as I've seen through the years and kind of looked at your work and seeing illustrators now sort of being inspired by your work, and I was like, right, I've got to get Daisy on because I can now see a wave of people who've obviously been influenced and looked at what you do, and it's good to see the person who sort of slungshot it to the forefront many years ago. Probably, I don't know when. Anyway, you can explain more.
yeah, yeah. I think when did the shoe boxes come out? They came out 2002, I think.
Yes, I must have just graduated. I graduated in '99, so I
Yeah. Oh,
think
I
just
graduated in
after.
I graduated in 99 as well.
Where did you go? Let's see what.
So I was at Parsons, I'm half American, so I had the opportunity to study in New York and they have a campus in Paris. So that's where I went.
Your world, and but you had a very British style of drawing.
Oh yeah. Well, I grew up in England and we'd go visit my relatives in America every summer, every holiday and Easter and Christmas. But yeah, I was born in London. I grew up here, but yeah, I probably have probably references from both cultures.
Yeah, and that sort of raw, edgy, punk-esque style.
Yeah.
And it
Yeah.
kind of really honed in. And I remember when I did some work for Days to Confused, and I think they were like showing your work quite a lot. And even a
Yeah.
ranking was constantly looking at raw techniques. And I was doing more screen printing and drawing through printmaking and you using felt tips and seeing Jason Brooks and Graham
Yeah. Yeah.
Ralphray and
Yeah.
all
Yeah.
them characters.
I remember Jason Brooks because I was in art school and I used to love his stuff. And then when I like finally met him, I was like, oh my God. Like I also feel like it was quite exciting when because I didn't feel that there were that many illustrators back then at all. When I started, there are a lot of people that wanted to be photographers and stylists, and I didn't see that many illustrators around. You did see people like Jason Brooks. So when someone asked me what I was doing, like a journalist, I just said illustrator. I didn't actually study illustration at art school. I got my degree in, I did fashion and fine art. So I think a lot has changed since then.
Oh yes, I think illustration is sort of become massive, and
Yeah.
I think when I went to uni and they just started the course, I think they've been running it only a short period at Kingston. And, then Brighton and all these other schools kind of popped up with illustration courses. So they kind of really moved in. And I had a quick scour around because I was trying to think, how do you describe your style? And I found this quite interesting description on The Guardian. I think the Guardian had wrote this. Uh,
Oh,
uh,
yeah. Is this what's up on the screen? Is that from The Guardian? Is that
this was
it?
from The Guardian, and
Okay.
I found this piece, and I think it was for one of your books that you were releasing. And
Okay, yeah. Yeah. I think it was for I should have said. Yeah, that came out about 10 years ago. It's so funny, like when I reread this stuff.
yeah, I could have posted more because it's funny how people see your work, and obviously, I think a lot of people have that. David Hockney was a big one that I guess for a lot of us, a lot of the British illustrators and artists, he kind of resonated, and he was always spoken about at uni. Not a little bit of Andy Warhol, but more Hockney, I think, for drawing is
Yeah.
sort of at the forefront for, and this sort of outsider art is quite nice, and that taps into magazines and that sort of space. And um, what would be interesting to hear from you is why felt tip pens and what made you go down this journey.
Okay, so I you if you you've probably seen in some of the articles about me, but I've been drawing with felt tip pen since three, and I won some competitions when I was little, and I would color in felt tip pen. Like, I won my like a birthday party at McDonald's when I was about 8, and I got like McDonald's coloring pen. So that was a medium that I used. And then at art school, I studied fashion design, but I was terrible at pattern making and sewing. So I switched to fine art and I ended up getting a degree in fine art. But I was really stuck with my senior like project that I was going to do, and well, one of the students from we all had to interview each other, the students, and she came to my flat studio and she saw that I had all these felt tip drawings lying around and typewriter text, and she just said to me, "Why don't you put that together?" And I thought that's such a good idea because I was really short for time and I needed a project, and so I did that, and I came up with these little he said she said, probably about 14 or 15 pictures on lined school notepaper, and then I just got a really good response from it. And then I thought, oh my God, wouldn't it be fun to just, continue in felt tip pens like as a medium? I know that felt tip pens fade, but for whatever reason, it worked. And so Topshop had seen the first book, He Said, She Said, that came out in 2001. And then they commissioned me to do the shoeboxes in the same sort of style, like He Said, She Said, but quotes about shoes, like a cowboy boot saying, kick him out. Um, or like a sneaker saying, he's always running away or something like that. So I continued with that. And then I just kept getting approached to illustrate in that medium. And so for me, it was kind of just like a joke, like, it's felt tip pen. But it's funny how it's continued after all these years. So that's sort of how it started.
It's amazing how you kind of trip over something and land on a style. And I guess that sort of technique, I guess if you tried to plan it, it wouldn't go right. It just has to happen. And I think just looking at this, because if you were at college and you were drawing and you're using felt tip pens, they'd probably ban you saying, "Oh, well, you've left marks in it," and you know, all the mistakes there have actually added value to the
Yeah,
drawing.
I completely agree. And you may have noticed in the text I sometimes make the typewriter text, I sometimes make mistakes, and I am dyslexic, so I like how I've kept it in, or I might make a mistake in a drawing. And I like those little quirks about it. I think they're nice.
Yeah, I think it's kind of a mature approach. I remember because I went back and did my master's at the Royal College, and they
Yeah.
spent most of their time. breaking us apart because we'd learned our craft too well. And they said it was actually, it felt really contrived. And I think unlearning half your skills is another process. I think you've almost reverse engineered it. And I think it's kind of worked to your benefit, which is great. And then I kind of tapped into these sorts of
Oh
spaces.
yeah.
These sort of look like more screen printy, the ones on the left of
Yeah,
the
so
shoes.
yeah, so that's correct. So the one on the left is a screen print. And that one, Killer Hills, is actually at the Groucho Club. It's at reception there. That is a screen print. The middle one is in paint. Um, and then the third picture is the felt tip pen and the typewriter text. Yeah, that was for Poco. So that's one of the, it says I hate the word relationship. That is, he said, that's from the first book, He Said, She Said.
Yeah. And these, I guess the shoes has a bit of a nod to Warhol. Warhol's shoes,
Yeah,
maybe.
probably. Yeah. And with Andy Warhol, I think my favorite is his early fashion illustration.
Yeah. Yeah. The sort of raw, naive drawings.
Yeah.
And I'm surprised that they haven't done better because they are, from a drawing point of view, are the best. And I think they really like capture the imagination of drawing the most. And I guess everybody just goes for the more popular Warhol stuff. But I guess people that understand drawing and love drawing really appreciate. Like I buy most of the books that Andy Warhol's more drawing based
Yeah.
rather than the more printmaking based stuff. And then I guess publishing and books. Uh, you've done a lot of publishing, and I guess that's a
Yeah.
kind of a tough challenge is books.
I love books. So the picture on the, let's see. The picture on the left is from a book called I Should Have Said, and that was a follow-up to the first book, He Said, She Said, kept in the same theme of relationships, felt tip, felt tip pen, and on sort of school graph note paper. Um, and then the middle book that was commissioned by the V&A, that was Penguin Random House, to do my style, a paper doll book in my felt tip pen style with their permanent collection from the V&A. So it's really amazing, that book. It's available at the V&A currently. It came out a few years ago. It's got paper doll cutouts and stickers and glitter stickers and scenes where you can cut it out and you can take a picture to look like sort of like a Instagram sort of vibe.
Nice. And have you animated any of these pieces?
No, that was something that was talked about years ago. I personally don't know how to do animation, but I did, I have thought, wouldn't it be cool if the characters sort of came alive and spoke to each other or blew kisses or the font came out their mouth or something like that. Like a sort of, I used to watch a lot of, when I would go to America in the summer to visit my grandparents, I watched a lot of MTV. So I
Yeah.
think I'm probably like, and I like, all 80s music. So I'm probably influenced by that somewhat too.
Yeah, because I can imagine even simple stop frame animation. If you look at like Charlie and Lola and them sorts of childlike ways of animating, that sort of stop frame animation, I think could be a initial start because there's a real you want to see this character now blink and you want to see the mouth almost having a chat. And I
Yeah.
think they'd even make good Snapchat avatars,
Yeah. I
which
always think that they'd be like my pictures would be cute little emojis like the lips thing.
yeah.
I would
Now,
love
now
that.
just thinking about it and seeing them again, I think, because if you think about as a creative or as an illustrator or as an image maker, you know, really busy, then not busy, then really busy, then not busy, and it's like being in a washing machine. And I think from that experience is thinking about animation, uh, or what I've tried to do is if sometimes you're not very good at animation, uh, try and go to a university and set it as a student project. Let the students do the hard work for you and
Yeah.
say, oh, well, we've got this challenge. We're trying to think about animation for these characters. How would you do it? We recently did one in Kingston and we got them to sort of deconstruct or decode. Maybe that's, maybe I'll point you in the direction of Kingston because they've got loads of animation students there, how to rethink your work in an animation context and tell new stories. And I think uh, enabling others to work alongside you as these sort of collaborators could bring these life and the typography down the bottom is almost you know this sort of text that could come up as they're saying, so you've everything's there for them. It's just needs that extra set of hands to
Yeah,
animate.
exactly.
And I think I remember Ardman, he was trying to do Wallace and Gromit and someone else just grabbed the Wallace and Gromit guy and said, "Look, we know you're never going to finish your film. You need help." And I think sometimes you need that bit of help. So I think animation would be brilliant. And then I guess the next bit is, which is which I didn't know, is I think you're part of the V&A collection.
Yeah. Yeah, so they bought some of my work. I think it was in this drawing's from 2001, but I think they bought it about 2011. So I've worked various times with the V&A. Um, and so yeah, I also did I don't know if you saw it, but I did a t-shirt for their shop of Queen Victoria.
Queen Victoria, yeah, I saw it.
Queen Victoria, I can't remember. Anyway, yeah, I did that. And then yeah, so various times, and then I got commissioned to do the book, and then I used to do Friday night lates for them. So yeah, I have a history of working with those guys, but it's pretty nice that they've got my stuff in their collection.
Well, it's amazing, I guess, from an illustrator. And I don't, there's only a few illustrators, contemporary illustrators, that are in the V&A. They've got an archive of illustrators, but thinking of contemporary illustrators that are relevant to today that are in the collection. I thought there was David Downton, yourself. There's only a few, so it's quite a big thing. So maybe you're underplaying it a bit because I was like this is pretty cool, and
Oh,
I was
thank
looking
you.
at all the different pieces that you had in it, like drawings, and that could be Warhol. We're talking about Warhol's pencil drawings, the bottom right hand one. And I think, it's almost like a little modern version of what Warhol looking through a contemporary set of eyes. And I think it's great. And the tie, Warhol's tie, he was known for
Yeah,
the tie. So it's quite funny that you've got all these little hidden references that you probably didn't remember.
completely. Yeah, yeah. And also, it's funny looking back which pictures I gave them. Like the one on the bottom right, the black and white one, that was a sketch for I did for the it was going to be for the women's half marathon in San Francisco. Um, and so that was just the sketch of it, and then the drawing next to it on the left is a color version of a different character. So yeah, it's funny seeing like what was going on in my life at the time, the pictures that I wanted to give to them because I also feel very protective about my art, like parting with my work as well, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, yeah, I guess look, but I'm amazed how neat they are.
Oh, my drawings.
Like how they're pristine.
Thank you. I have also discovered pens, different pens along the way. So I started off with probably cheap Woolworths pens, and then I discovered Prismacolor in the US. Do you know that pen?
Yep, yep, yep.
Yeah, yeah. And I like how it has this sort of watery feel with two like there's a thick end and a thin end. And so if you look at my first book and my second book, there's 2 years apart, but the it's completely different, the drawings. Like the second book's just more like sort of cleaner in a way, like it's just crisp. And so my artwork has sort of evolved in the way that I draw and like obviously the pens that I use. I love a Sharpie as well. In fact, I've got a Sharpie right here. So the medium, the kind of pens have changed too.
No, and I guess because you've got a fine sort of black
Yeah,
pen.
that's a thin, fine Sharpie. That will be the one, the black and white drawing, yeah.
Wow, so and there's not much bleed.
I know,
There's
which is
hardly
pretty.
any bleed on any of the drawings. There's no bleed. So, and because that paper's like newsprint,
Oh, yeah, it's like computer paper.
I'm surprised because newsprint usually you draw on it, it just it bleeds because it soaks up all the ink. But yours seems to have like held it almost like fine pencil and then oh, amazing to see them. And then I grabbed these two little images off your site. I think this was Juicy Couture.
That was from their lookbook. So what that was, they were in black and white, and I was at it was sort of like a live drawing thing at the stores. And if a customer bought over a certain amount of money, I could color in a picture for them to take home.
Right. Uh, we were talking about live events earlier with someone else, and there's another illustrator I didn't want to talk about, but they had said that they had the same thing, which was if you buy over X, you'll get a drawing. And the person said that no one bought anything all day, so they kind of just sat there. So, and from that experience, events can be a bit of a scary moment if no one's spending the money buying big purses or big bags or anything like that. But I guess you
Yeah,
were lucky if it's Juicy Couture, £200. That's quite normal for I guess a consumer.
yeah.
And then I grabbed some of your, I guess some of the packaging
Oh,
stuff.
yeah,
Right.
the products, yeah, yeah. So the on the left, the mug that was for shelter charity. That was in conjunction with Elle Decoration. So they asked different artists to um draw. That was the color they give. Often will give you a color palette. In fact, all these products were a color palette. And so that was a nice project. It was also alongside Alexander McQueen and who else was there? A few like a really like a bunch of like really amazing artists, which is quite cool to like have be me sat aside
Yeah,
other people that are
big
like,
guns.
yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And the Moe was the Moe you drew on it or you made the packaging for it?
So with that, I drew I did the tulip design, and originally the idea was it was going to be my felt. So you can see the two inside the tulips, it's felt tip pen. You can, and I really like how it shows that on the box. Originally, the idea was going to be that pale pink was going to be all more of a shocking pink felt tip pen design, but I think they probably decided to be a bit more safe, so they didn't go with that. But it's still really amazing that they used me and I got to have my name on the packaging. And then when that came out, I went to Paris when, do you remember the shop Colette in Paris?
Yeah, yeah.
It was their 10th anniversary, and so I customized some about 10 Magnum bottles for them for their dinner. And so that's when I did draw on the champagne. But that was a great gig. I got to go to New York, Paris, Japan. I really miss jobs like that actually.
Yeah, it's funny because I was talking to an agent. So we've tried to speak to illustrators, artists, creatives, agents, commissioners who, and they were saying that the price point and these sort of supersonic jobs, which you would have got flying around the world and doing all these things, I think live events is tapping into a bit of it now, is the main space where for commercial illustrators getting all of these great gigs. I remember going to Japan and drawing live in the windows in Osaka. And I think someone like you would have been, but we had NARS Cosmetics, Stella McCartney,
Wow.
Marc Jacobs, and I think there was about six different illustrators all around the world who kind of went there and drew. And this is perfect, but they don't really have the courage, a lot of these brands now, to really push. They do a little bit of window, but it does feel a bit safe. There seems a lot of safety in what's being happening at the moment. And I think live events seems to be the only space because it's immediate and it's kind of what audience want.
Yeah, exactly.
Um, but it depends if you want to be hanging out at live events every night and stuck with loads of customers. Sometimes it's great, sometimes it's not. I think it's a tough one to do the live events, but they can be fun. I think
Yeah.
illustrating live on packaging is quite nice. I saw Prada did a collage workshop, which looked really good. And I think someone like you, I don't know, are you interested in live events? What's your thoughts on live events?
Um, I think with me, the way I draw, if I was to draw people, I think people, because it's like my vision, I think it's not like I think that I'd get a lot of complaints about like, oh, my nose doesn't look right, or I don't know. I feel like it would be like it's I'm not the right artist for that sort of thing. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, and
I,
also
I,
like,
I'd like to say I disagree with you, but I think yes and no. I think depending on the event, if it's a cool event and it's like with a brand that's, if it was Miu Miu or Prada or someone who's more sophisticated, I think you could get away with it. Anna Sui, people like that work
yeah,
with really cool illustrators. And Anna Sui has a really cool illustration style as well. So I think your style would work well with them sorts of brands. I think it's more sophisticated now, your approach to drawing, rather than making pretty pictures. And I
yeah,
think
yeah,
that's what's happening in a lot of live events. It seems quite
yeah,
pretty
yeah.
pictures and
That's what I feel, and that's why because people say to me, well, why aren't you doing that? I mean, thing is, I actually don't get asked, but I do think that people would just be like not happy with the way they looked, and people can be very. When I have drawn from my friends, I feel that they can be very critical of it, or I don't know. There's always something that happens where it's so personal, I feel.
yeah, yeah. But I think as a little bit of advice, because we get asked about live event illustrators, and sometimes the references they send, we would need this illustrator. Um, they're nothing like what the final outcomes are, as in the referencing could be uh, Japanese an anime illustration. So there's lots of different styles and different techniques. It's a case of how do you do it, and also drawing at live fashion shows. One of the things we've tried to do is bring fashion illustrators back to fashion shows because they don't I've been going to Fashion Week and I never see them and I'm like, why is no one here? And I had some illustrators drawing at the casting for Fashion Scout today for new gen designers and trying to bring them back, and it is a struggle, but I feel that illustrators should be present. We see Sue Dre and people like that who are at these fashion shows drawing, but she can't fly the flag forever. I
Yeah,
think it has to be illustrators, not just photographers. I think and people love it. Like
yeah,
if you were there drawing, and because it's a media, it isn't necessarily always about perfection, and people love it to be a bit quirky. So I guess depending on if we're thinking about it, you drawing live on a big sketch notebook with line paper, and you're drawing these characters, I think I think there is a demand there, and even if it was drawing on a big digital iPad screen, like these huge screens, and it looks like like a notepad, and you're drawing direct. I think that your work would be cool there. It's all about art direction and I think curation, because I think there's definitely a space for what you do in the fashion scene, and it would be great to see you kind of back in them spaces. And I think it needs it. It needs it.
yeah, yeah.
That's why I've got you here.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, no, I used to do a lot of editorial as well, and I mean, I know it doesn't pay well, but I do miss it. And I had actually just last year just been like emailing, random people like, I would love to do food illustration or more fashion. And yeah, I just get like no response, but I do miss doing that, the occasional editorial.
Well, we spoke to today. We were speaking to a food. She makes food for luxury events, and she was showing me her little quirky drawings, and she does them like you with a Sharpie and
Yeah.
draws them. And I was saying, there's definitely potential here. And now you mentioning that and
Yeah,
your technique to food, um, I think yes, there's a space. I think like you published the books with the your original books, maybe you need to think about doing something for food.
definitely. Yeah, like do illustrate for a cookbook or a weekly column. Do you remember there was like the Sunday Times had like the food column, like something fun like that.
Yeah.
I'm
And with your and with the typewriter text,
Yeah, that'd be
I think
cool too. Yeah.
hopefully I've triggered an idea. If
Yeah.
not, I'll be calling on you because I'm hoping to do more books and publishing. We've published four books, but we're gonna potentially do more magazine stuff because I think
Okay.
there is a space, we see lots of fashion photography, but there was one fashion magazine, but I think there needs to be more, there needs to be a good one that brings back a bit of life to fashion illustration and looking at other disciplines like food. So you can bring in new other spaces. And I think that's my goal is to kind of grab everybody and try and bring them in and make this happen as well. Because otherwise it won't happen.
Yeah.
If you want it to happen, you have to kind of force it.
Oh
And
yeah, like yeah, I feel like I've definitely been like, sending out my CV. Like I sent you a PDF of my work, right?
yeah,
I've got a food and drink one that I just been sending out. So just like getting all my work together and just looking at the masthead of magazines or online and just asking friends of friends and just going through a list of just emailing people.
yeah. I think we need to get you to come to the Fashion Week show and draw live. Get
So I did do Fashion Week once for Vogue years ago, and I was frontline at the catwalk, and my piece of paper slid across the catwalk, and I was so embarrassed. And this, like, I asked the photographer to like get it for me, and he's like, "Someone could have tripped up," and I just remember like I actually burst into tears after the event, and I was with my intern. And I thought it'd be like fun for her to come like see like what I do, and I was just like, I couldn't really handle it. It was like so intense.
it is really intense, but like today, the people I sent to do the casting at that sort of space where it's not too mad, but then I think drawing almost backstage. I think backstage to me is much more interesting than the show. And I think in that space, we usually have three or four, we've even had up to eight illustrators, all drawing when the makeup's being done, the hair's being done. I think it's much cooler. And it's like it's like that documentary reportage, that sort of capturing the moment. And I think that's the sort of space. So if you're ever free, we're always happy to have you. So
You.
you're on you've been on my radar. I've kind of worked to get you, and I think it'd be great to see you. So I and then I found these bags as well. Like I love
Yeah.
this one with the microphone. I think that's
Yeah.
a
So they were for Topshop. I did 2 seasons for them. That was about 2002 or 2003 to 2004. And they were sort of a rock star range. And so it's sort of like a bit of a Ziggy Stardust, David Bowie sort of 70s glam rock kind of influence.
I can and that, looking at that now, I'm thinking of the Chrysophily. You know the Chrysophily, the mum, the big head. That was I think he
Yeah.
won the Turner Prize on it. It
Yeah.
had a little bit of Chrysophillies like that sort of big head. Uh,
Yeah.
they could make really cool, huge paintings using glitter. I'm seeing big paintings here, and I think there's definitely some new stuff. I think we'll just push
Yeah.
you a little bit harder because
I,
we're trying to plan exhibitions as well. And I think some of these, because we're speaking to Hiroshi Tanabe as well
oh, cool.
in Japan, and he was showing me all his stuff he's done for Marc Jacobs on
Oh, wow.
bags as well. So maybe a show about bags. I was talking to him, can I get them printed large to show at an exhibition? So maybe we could have a sort of crossover between Hiroshi Tanabe and your sort of stuff could be cool of drawing on bags and then
Yeah, that
maybe
would be
print
cool.
them. That'd be really nice.
Yeah.
Just
Yeah.
looking at them live, and I think. because these are magical moments.
Yeah, yeah. I'm definitely going to revisit this rock rock star vibe
Yeah,
again.
just seeing it. I was scouring through today and I thought, wow, I can see them stars and I can see that color and how would they look big and how would they work and where else do you put this sort of work in today's world apart from garments and we see Dior using lots of these things. Be lovely embroidered on the back of a jacket. You could really
Yeah,
imagine it. It'd be
it was
such
really cool. Yeah.
super cool. Um, anyway, we don't drown on for too long, but because
Okay,
we're
cool.
lucky to have you, and I know
Thank you for
dinner
having me.
dinner and so on. But thank you so much, Daisy, and it's
You're
been
welcome.
a pleasure, and I've
Thank
managed to get you, which was great. So thank you so much for your time.
thank you for
Uh,
having me.
it's been a luxury, and I remember seeing your work when I left uni. So it's great to see you in reality and showcase the work. So thanks for your time and everything.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. Bye.
Brilliant. Thank you, Daisy.
Bye.
Bye bye.
Bye.